Yo, maestro.
Homelander said as Ryan sat in the chair. He patted his son on the shoulders.
Turning 4, huh?
Stormfront enthusiastically questioned the boy.
Yeah.
Ryan replied.
Hey,
Homelander said, scooting up to Ryan.
wait until you try the big homie with bacon. It's so good. And the mocha noir shake. It's amazing. It won't be lumpy like your mom's.
He suggested to the boy. Behind Homelander, a young girl held out her phone, an eager smile on her face while her body was taut. As two young men approached the table,
Homelander,
Hey,
can I get a selfie?
she asked the superhero.
ask the boss.
He said, turning towards Ryan before chuckling.
Just kidding.
Homelander said, moving towards her. Ryan looked on and soon noticed more people joining them. Soon it almost seemed like the entire restaurant was heading over to them. Those not joining them looked at them, their eyes practically glued to them. His anxiety rising, Ryan put his hands to his ears, clamping them shut. Suddenly, an explosion and blood-curdling screams could be heard outside, followed by an explosion. The two soldiers outside the restaurant began to shoot at something that was obscured from the restaurant walls. A stream of fire washed over them, burning them to a crisp. A hellish roar made by something that no living creature on Earth could feasibly shout momentarily drowned out the screams. Screaming could be heard not just by Homelander, but by everyone within the radius. Countless people flocked past Planet Vought, all screaming and clearly running away from something. A woman barged into the restaurant before going up to Homelander and grabbed his shoulder.
Do something!
The frantic woman yelled to their confusion, furthering Ryan's unease.
From what?
Stormfront asked the woman when suddenly one of the walls was broken down. It was large, and flames emanated around it from the tips of its horns to the hooves. It was unlike anything anyone in that restaurant had ever seen. The creature's roar deafened the screams of patrons as they began to scatter. Nearby soldiers began to open fire on the monster, but their weapons proved ineffectual. This was further punctuated when the monster breathed out its flames, burning the soldiers. Homelander and Stormfront paused, unaware of the growing anxiety attack that Ryan was presently going through. Just then, a thin man wearing a strange blue garb and hat with a golden band wrapped around it stepped out from under the monster. He had a very smug-looking grin on his face.
Oh, wonderful volunteers.
He said, his voice high-pitched and raspy.
I am Felix Faust, master of the mystical arts, but more importantly, your demise.
It took a while for Homelander and Stormfront to regain their senses.
Oh, look, I see you're a magician.
Homelander mocked him.
Sorry, Las Vegas is a little far from here.
He added.
Nice outfit, too.
Stormfront added.
You have no idea what you are up against, do you?
Faust asked them with a smug grin on his face.
No, not really.
Homelander said as his eyes began to glow red. He shot his laser vision at the monster and Faust, but nothing happened. The monster was only mildly phased and was pushed back an inch or two, while some sort of purple shield of light protected Faust from the attack. Before Homelander could comprehend what had happened, an energy blast from Faust's hand knocked him through the restaurant into the next building. Homelander clutched his chest as he breathed in heavily from the burning sensation he felt from his chest. He could feel the hole in his costume as he removed his hand. The glass on the floor showcased what appeared to be an actual burn. It didn't appear severe, but it was like getting hit by a flamethrower to the recipient. He was on his hands and knees trying to figure out what was happening. Stormfront watched on, her eyes wide open upon seeing what had just happened to Homelander. Before she could react, the monster commanded by Faust kicked her across the street. She flew a greater distance than Homelander, past the building he crashed into. Ryan had fallen down on the floor sobbing. He had no idea what was happening.
All too easy.
Faust had boasted.
Now let's go. We have a world to conquer.
He added. The demon began to walk as it prepared to step on Ryan. He disappeared in an instant. Faust stopped, his confidence draining because of a momentary blue and red swirl. As the demon moved forward, two beams of red light hit the creature's temples, causing it to stumble back as it clutched where it was hit. Faust looked to the horizon and saw the perpetrator. A sense of fear had begun to grow as he saw him. Superman. He wore the usual light blue costume with matching red trunks, boots, and a cape with a golden S on it that almost matched the larger emblem on his chest. His hair was black with a noticeable small curl on his forehead.
That's enough, Faust.
Superman warned.
I'd surrender if I were you.
Faust smirked upon seeing the Man of Steel, his arrogance unshaken.
Do you expect me to flee from you, Superman? You, of all people, should know not to engage a master of the mystic arts.
Who said it was just me, Felix?
Superman told him. To Faust's horror, two more figures had flown down onto the scene. One was a tanned woman wearing a golden tiara, blue and white-starred shorts, a red bustier with a golden eagle on the front, and red boots with a white stripe in the middle. More noticeable was a golden lasso on her hip. Her hair was long and black. Wonder Woman was with him. The other was a man but did not look human. His skin was green and he was wearing a blue cape connected by red straps, wrapped around his chest with matching blue pants and boots. Unlike the other two, his eyes were red. The Martian Manhunter had accompanied them as well. Faust practically began to hyperventilate, the JLA's arrival being completely unexpected. He regained his composure for a moment. The demon was wreathed in flames, and its mystical origins would impede Superman and Martian Manhunter. He was confident it could take on Wonder Woman as well.
Destroy them!
He ordered the demon until a green hammer made of energy crashed into the monster, knocking it down. He looked up and saw one of the Green Lanterns, John Stewart.
You're under arrest, Faust. Don't make this harder for yourself.
He warned the sorcerer. The demon began to pick itself up, roaring in rage, but Superman flew down and delivered an uppercut, knocking it off its feet a couple of feet into the air. The Martian followed suit, using his Martian vision to launch it further into the air. When a red and yellow tornado began to appear on the ground, keeping the monster hovering in the air. Wonder Woman flew atop the tornado and stomped the monster onto the street, embedding the demon into the street. The tornado disappeared, revealing its creator, the Flash.
Today is just not your day, Faust.
Flash told him. Suddenly, water began to burst free from nearby water sources, such as fire hydrants and a nearby storm sewer. The flames were doused by a blonde, bearded man with long hair. He was bare-chested for the most part, save for a metal pauldron-like armor on his right shoulder. He held a golden trident in his left hand, but his right hand consisted of a hook. Aquaman was with them as well. He let out a roar and jumped at the demon. His hook fired like a harpoon, nailing the monster in the eye. It let out a pained cry as it tried to pull the hook out quickly, but it was too late. The trident impaled the monster's heart, causing it to roar in pain as it exploded into ash.
Do you have any more monsters?
Aquaman asked, sounding eager for a challenge. At that moment, Faust started running away when someone landed before him. He wore gray armor with a black bat symbol on his chest, which matched the cowl color on his head. It was Batman, death glare and all. The frightening look on his face caused the sorcerer to pause momentarily. Faust raised his left arm, trying to cast a spell, but Batman used his left arm to wrap around it. Faust felt his arm snap. The pain almost caused him to scream. However, a series of punches from Batman's right fist to his face prevented that from happening. He was being hit so fast the sorcerer could barely feel any pain from each blow. Batman halted his attack before grabbing Faust by the throat and hoisting him into the air. Faust spat out some blood. His face was covered in bruises.
You cannot defeat me.
Faust gasped out.
I will.
He was cut off by one last punch across the jaw from the bat.
No, you won't.
Batman coldly told the sorcerer. Faust was knocked unconscious with one last punch and released from Batman's grasp, falling onto the ground.
Was all that really necessary, Bruce?
Wonder Woman questioned Batman telepathically.
I pulled those punches.
Batman bluntly told her.
I won't dispute your claim,
Diana said, sounding slightly amused.
Me neither.
Clark said.
Faust has been through far worse.
Aquaman said, looking around the surrounding area.
Agreed, so this is the other world?
Flash said.
Seems kinda nice.
He added,
So what's our next plan?
Do some research and learn more about this world. Then, we decide what to do next.
Batman told him.
Right, they have other heroes here too.
Flash said.
Why don't we join them now?
Indeed, like those two.
Martian Manhunter said, pointing at the fallen members of the Seven. His eyes were steadily glowing red as a result of utilizing his telepathy.
They're still alive, right?
Flash asked, pointing at a downed Homelander.
I can hear them. They're still breathing.
Superman told him.
Looks like Faust's demon was above their weight class. That one is wearing a similar outfit to Superman.
Batman said, taking note of Homelander's appearance.
He might be their version of you, Clark.
He added.
You might be right.
Superman said.
Yeah, and I found another parallel. Look at the building behind us.
Green Lantern directed them as the League looked at the wrecked restaurant behind them.
Planet Vought sounds a lot like Planet Krypton.
John added.
So is that a good thing or bad thing?
Flash asked.
We will have to wait and see. It seems their public has taken notice of us.
John said as he pointed to a growing crowd of people gathering around them. Suddenly, crowds of people began to appear and approach the Justice League, taking pictures and recording the JLA on their phones.
So now what?
Green Lantern questioned Batman only to find he had already disappeared from the scene.
Typical.
John muttered, completely annoyed.
Did you expect anything less from him?
Arthur asked.
No, can't say I did.
Green Lantern admitted.
So do we just go, or?
Flash was cut off by Superman.
It's all right. Everything is under control now at the moment.
He told the crowd.
The man responsible has been dealt with.
Clark gestured to Faust. Martian Manhunter grabbed Faust and picked him up over his shoulder.
I will be taking him to Dr. Fate.
John telepathically told them all.
Good idea. Hopefully he can hold him.
Aquaman said.
What about the kid?
John asked.
There's a child who probably needs medical assistance. You can see his face in your mind, please. If you're responsible for him, come forward. We can take you to the hospital faster than an ambulance.
John telepathically communicated with the crowd, sharing a mental image of Ryan with their psyches. Flash disappeared for a moment before returning with an unconscious Ryan in his arms. A plethora of questions emerged from the crowd.
Who are you?
Are you related to Homelander, Queen Maeve, A-Train, The Deep?
What's your association with Vought?
We can't answer all of your questions at the moment. Just know we are the Justice League of America, and we are here to help.
Wonder Woman told them. The League walked into the crowd trying to find Ryan's parents when a light began to emerge from the boy. The Leaguer's eyes widened with dread and familiarity upon seeing this. He disappeared in a flash of light not long afterward. The crowd began to panic, with other people in the crowd disappearing in a similar manner too.
Calm down. There's no need to panic.
Superman called out to no avail. The crowd dispersed from the League.
Well, that went well,
Flash said. Superman sighed and rubbed his temples, completely annoyed.
We need to find out the source for these disappearances, and fast.
Superman said,
For our world and theirs.
He added. With that, the Justice League began to leave the scene. Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Martian Manhunter flew away separately. At the same time, Lantern flew away with Aquaman, who was standing on a platform construct. Finally, the Flash ran away from them. At that moment, Homelander and Stormfront got up barely able to stand. The pain still lingered, and with no real idea of what had just happened.
Where the fuck is that thing?
Homelander seethed quietly, holding his hand over his chest.
Don't know. It's not our problem now.
Wait, where's Ryan?
Homelander questioned her, a look of concern becoming apparent. As he got back up, he collapsed onto the ground in pain. Stormfront went over to him, concerned.
Are you all right?
She asked.
It fucking hurts.
He blurted out, huddling against his own chest. He could feel his eyes starting to moist, but he refused to show weakness. Elsewhere in New York, Huey Campbell and Annie January, formerly Starlight, were driving back to the hideout after their failed attempt to get help from Queen Maeve. Annie was looking at the cross necklace her mother gave her contemplatively, still attached to the cardboard tag that read Diamond Jewelry.
New bling?
Huey asked her.
Donna got it for me. Pretty sure she got it at Dwayne Reed.
She told him before chuckling.
Oh gosh, Moms. The gift that keeps on giving forever.
She mused. Huey was silent.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
Annie apologized.
What? No, it's fine.
Huey stammered.
No. I'm an asshole for bitching about my mom when yours is.
Annie said, giving Huey a look of sympathy. Huey looked at her, realizing what Annie assumed.
My mom's not dead.
He told her.
She's not?
Annie questioned him, surprised.
Oh, it's just, you never mentioned her, so...
She explained her initial assumption.
She left when I was 6.
Huey informed her.
Oh, wow. Shit.
She uttered sympathetically.
I'm really sorry.
That's where Billy Joel comes from. She and I used to have these dance parties.
Huey explained.
She was fun.
He stammered wistfully. Just then, the car's radio turned on, surprising both of its occupants. No music played, only static. Anything that sounded like a word was garbled. Huey turned to Annie, who was trying to adjust the radio.
Are you doing this?
He asked her in concern. Fear of a soup trying to ambush them started to form.
No.
She told him, sounding completely worried. She lightly tapped the radio in an attempt to make it stop. The radio started to become a little more audible. However, the radio kept changing channels, causing it to say this.
Mysterious disappearances.
Sweeping throughout the...
6 months. Luthers. Strikers.
GCPD manhunt. Joker.
Just... League!
The radio stopped broadcasting. After a moment, the young couple looked at one another anxiously, until they heard someone from behind.
Some shitbirds?
A-Train asked them. Huey and Annie screamed as the former tried to swerve the car to prevent it from crashing. Back at the hideout, Billy Butcher had just returned from his meeting with Stan Edgar. He saw Becca smoking a cigarette. She was tense, and it was made even more obvious when she turned to him.
Hey, did you find anything?
She asked.
I got him in a cabin up in Rochester.
He told her.
Butcher.
Mother's Milk called out. His tone was what earned Butcher's attention the most. It was tense in disbelief.
You're gonna want to see this,
he said, pointing at the TV. Butcher walked up to the TV. Frenchie and Kimiko were still like statues. The TV had been paused as MM resumed it. The headline was all that was needed to garner Butcher's attention. Horror at Planet Vought. Homelander and Stormfront defeated? Who are the Justice League of America? That was not to say the footage in the broadcast was unimpressive. Hardly. He took note of the giant, fiery monster that defeated his hated enemies, which was trounced by the other 6 soups he assumed were the titular Justice League. Becca walked over to her husband and watched on in horror as she saw what had happened to Ryan.
Oh my God, that's Ryan.
She called out as her son disappeared in a flash of light. All she could do was let out a couple of horrified gasps. Butcher held her tight. His deal with Edgar was fucked now.
What the fuck?
Mother's Milk muttered.
Frenchie.
He asked his eccentric teammate.
No idea.
He said.
Butcher, we've got something to show you.
Huey said, holding a manila folder that was given to him by A-Train. The news broadcast distracted him. Suddenly, the group found themselves enveloped by blue light. Billy Butcher feels his chest hitting the asphalt as if he fell off his bed. His face hits a puddle. He can see he's in an alley and his wife is beside him. Billy quickly gets up and helps her to get up.
Becca, you okay?
Says Billy as he helps her to get up.
I'm not hurt. What happened?
She told him.
My guess is that some soup with teleportation powers brought us here.
He told her.
There's one of them who can do this?
She asked.
I don't know. Frenchie probably would. But we're the only 2 around. I'm not even sure if we're in New York. I don't recognize these buildings.
Oh my God, Ryan. Homelander must have sent somebody to get rid of me.
Says Becca, full of fear.
We might be on the other side of the globe.
No. If he knew where we were, we would be dead.
Butcher coldly replied.
Let's walk and find where we are.
As they leave the alley, the couple faces what looks like a golden statue of Homelander with an eagle on his arm, but as they take a close look, they notice the S on the chest of the statue. The statue is big, too monumental to be a small-town homage to a Homelander-inspired hero. Billy notices a small screen close to the monument, and as he touches it, it starts a small piece of a documentary telling about the death and resurrection of Superman. Confused about this supposedly real history being told, Billy questions.
What is this place?
Frenchie fell over yellow police tape as he suddenly appeared in an unknown place. Lying on the ground, he notices this warehouse and that Kimiko is there. As he gets up, Frenchie looks confused with the abandoned police scene. Seems like somebody built somewhat of an elaborate reproduction of the Tea Party scene from Alice in Wonderland. He can't tell what it was since apparently the police took away most of it, but Frenchie also noticed the fabrics and small pieces of camera equipment left behind. After some thought, he goes to Kimiko and explains to her.
We've been teleported. I only know one super who can do this. Europo. We might be at the Vault Studios complex. This set must be done. Right now outside, we may find soups filming their movie, and we must fight if they are really out there. Entendu?
Frenchie said. Kimiko shakes her head, confirming it, as Frenchie puts out his pistol and carefully leaves the warehouse. As he steps aside, he finds they're not in a movie set. It's a real abandoned warehouse, and he can see 2 more around the same block. They're close to a bay, and he smells the stink of pollution. Kimiko walks looking around just as puzzled as Frenchie states.
That can't be a real crime scene. There's no such thing as a GCPD.
Walking and yelling down the street, there's a dirty preacher preaching about how he found God after he survived somebody called Zaz. Oddly enough, there seem to be airships in the skies, but the weirdest part is the architecture of the buildings. They all look like they came straight out an expressionist movie. Frenchie faces a huge graffiti of a demonic-looking clown with green hair, and in the background of the art there is a rain of dead birds, but what really catches his attention is what is written over it. This is Gotham. Mother's Milk felt his body hitting a brick wall when he fell in an alley. He quickly regained his senses and realized what was happening. Mother's Milk left the alley and noticed how he doesn't recognize the streets. A walk around the block showed him eviction notices on many doors, boys on corners clearly selling drugs, and billboards for big rich companies whose names he doesn't know. On his way wherever he was going, Mother's Milk noticed 3 boys following him. He was ready, but an old man with a cane walked past him, and the boys started to follow the old man. When he found a convenience store, Mother's Milk went inside and talked to the clerk.
Hey man, I just want a water bottle. I don't know how much
Milk opened his wallet. There was quite a lot of money in it.
You know what? Make it 4. I also want a backpack, a phone charger, and a map. And can you tell where I am?
Adams Height,
answered the clerk.
I meant the city.
The clerk was confused but answered him.
Star City.
Starling City?
No, Star City. You okay, man?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Mother's Milk pays him, and as he leaves the store, he notices how there isn't any Vought merch around. No Homelander cereal, no Brave Maeve food. He sees this cereal with a soup called Booster Gold in it, but it's clearly too wacky to be real. He passes by where the Homelander dolls are supposed to be, and he sees a version with black hair and an S on their chests. He looks at the TV, and the news is about alien invasion somewhere called Coast City. All of these completely baffle Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk leaves the store and tries to call Colonel Mallory. This number does not exist, is the answer. Tries to call his wife. This number does not exist. There was sudden darkness when they fell on their feet. Huey and Annie were in this small room.
Where are we?
Asked Huey.
Oh my god, I think we were teleported to a Vought cell.
Annie answered, stressed.
I can't move or see anything. You think you can bust us out?
I feel electricity around, but how do we know if Homelander is not outside waiting?
We don't, but you have to try.
Okay.
Annie reluctantly agreed. She was ready to open a hole in the wall when a door opens behind them, and they see a man dressed as a janitor. More than that, they see they're in a janitor's closet.
God damn it, get out of here, you two!
Said the janitor, and Huey and Annie obeyed in confusion.
Mr. Miles, I found a guy and a girl from your group making out in my closet again.
Huey and Annie notice they're in a museum and that Mr. Miles is touring a group. Unknowing the situation, the two follow the group to the strange museum. There are pictures and statues of these superheroes with lightning in their chests. One wears a helmet, a red mask covering the red, and a younger hero wears yellow and has his red hair exposed. The weirdest thing for Huey and Annie is how clearly they are speedsters. However, nothing seems to allude to the idea of sports. Trying not to call a lot of attention, they listen to the touring guide with the gray mustache.
In 1947, a man named Isaac Bowen moved here. But this new citizen of Keystone didn't stay in history with this name. You must know him as the Fiddler. The Fiddler fought the original Flash with the powerful blasts created by his fiddle and attempted many times to use it to hypnotize him. The Crimson Comet himself raced against something he never thought he would, the Fiddle-mobile.
Mr. Miles points to a fiddle-shaped automobile on display in the museum. Miles notices one of the tourists in the group raise his hand and point a finger at him, indicating permission to speak.
I'm sorry, I want to ask something that might sound stupid,
said Huey.
But this is just made up, right? I mean, old-timey superheroes fought regular crimes and in wars, not guys with super music instruments. And why would somebody even make a car like this?
I don't know what world you've been living in, young man, but these sorts of supervillains are quite common. I myself was a victim of some. I remember acting in a presentation of Othello. about 10 years ago in the Metropolis Community Theater, when Toyman took the word play literally. But we are here to talk about The Flash.
Huey and Annie hide behind a wall and let the rest of the touring group go. They speak, lowering their voices as they converse.
What the hell is going on?
Annie asked.
I don't know. Actually, I might have a theory, but it sounds stupid.
Huey told her.
What?
She asked.
Have you ever watched the show Fringe?
Huey asked her.
No. What does that have to do with this?
She questioned, completely skeptical.
I think...
He stopped as though trying to process what he was about to say.
I think we might be in another universe.
Huey told her hesitantly. When Ryan woke up, he found himself in a cornfield at night. Once more, he had begun to hyperventilate. Tears started to come out of his eyes, unable to think clearly. Until he heard someone speak to him.
Are you okay?
A young boy's voice said. Ryan turned around and saw a boy around his age, with black hair and wearing glasses around blue eyes. He wore a red, blue, and yellow jacket with jeans, as well as red and white sneakers. With him was a dog with white fur.
My name is John.
The boy told him.
What's yours?
He asked Ryan.